I didn't come to the mountains to fall in love. I came because my life felt too loud, too crowded, too full of other people's expectations. After a quiet burnout I didn't know how Nazvate, I packed a single suitcase and rented a small cabin in a mountain town no one I knew had ever heard of. The plan was simple: work remotely, hike, sleep, and avoid emotional conversations with anyone, including myself. The cabin was older than the photos suggested. The floors creaked, the windows whistled when the wind picked up, and the heater worked only when it felt like it. But it was surrounded by pine trees and silence, and that felt like exactly what I needed. For the first week, I barely spoke to anyone. I bought groceries at the same small store, nodded politely to strangers, and spent my evenings wrapped in a blanket with my laptop balanced on my knees. I told myself I was healing. In truth, I was hiding. Everything changed because of a power outage. One evening, a storm rolled in suddenly. The sky darkened, the wind howled, and within minutes the lights went out. My phone had no signal. The cabin felt colder and smaller than before. I lit a candle and tried to stay calm until I heard a knock on the door. It startled me more than it should have. When I opened it, a man stood on the porch, rain soaking his jacket, holding a flashlight. "Sorry to bother you," he said. "I'm checking on the cabins. Power's out across the valley." His voice was steady, reassuring. I invited him inside. He introduced himself as Lucas, part of the local maintenance team, born and raised in the town. He checked the heater, the windows, made sure everything was safe. "Should be back by morning," he said. "If not, I'll come by." I thanked him. He nodded, then hesitated. "You doing okay out here alone?" I surprised myself by answering honestly. "I think so." He smiled softly. "Good. It's a quiet place, but it looks after you, if you let it." After he left, the cabin didn't feel quite as empty. The next time I saw him was 2 days later at the grocery store. He recognized me immediately. "Still warm?" he asked. "Mostly," I said. "I'm learning how to negotiate with the heater." He laughed. It was easy, natural. We started running into each other more often, on the trail near the river, at the cafe that only opened 3 days a week, outside the post office. At first, our conversations were brief and polite. Then they grew longer. Lucas had a calm presence. He didn't rush his words or fill silence unnecessarily. He spoke about the mountains the way people speak about family, with respect, patience, and deep familiarity. He listened the same way. One afternoon, he asked if I wanted to join him for a hike. "I promise it's not a difficult one," he said, "and the view's worth it." I almost said no. Old habits don't disappear easily, but something about the way he asked, no pressure, no expectation, made it feel safe to say yes. The hike took us through tall trees and narrow paths. We walked slowly, stopping often. He pointed out small details I would have missed: animal tracks, changes in the wind, the sound of distant water. At the top, we sat in silence. "I didn't know I needed this," I said finally. He nodded. "Most people don't, not until they stop running." That sentence stayed with me. Over the next weeks, he became part of my days in a way that felt effortless. We cooked together, shared stories by the fire, talked about past mistakes, about fear, about the strange weight of expectations we carry without realizing it. I told him about my previous life, the city, the job I had loved until it consumed me, the relationship I had stayed in long after it stopped feeling right. He didn't judge. He didn't try to fix anything. "You sound like someone who forgot how to rest," he said once. I realized he was right. Falling for Lucas didn't feel dramatic. There were no sudden declarations, no intense uncertainty. It felt like slowly stepping into warmer water, realizing too late that you never want to leave. The problem was time. My stay was temporary. I had told myself that from the beginning. One morning, while packing a small box, the reality finally caught up with me. "I leave in 3 weeks," I said that evening. He didn't hide his disappointment, but he didn't panic either. "That's not far," he said quietly, "but it's not nothing." The next weeks were tender and heavy all at once. We didn't pretend it wasn't happening. We also didn't let it steal the joy from the time we had. On my last night, the sky was clear. We sat outside the cabin, wrapped in blankets, watching the stars. "I don't want to ask you to stay," he said, "but I don't want to pretend this doesn't matter." I had already been thinking about my answer. "I didn't come here planning to build a life," I said, "but I don't want to leave the one I found." I stayed. Not because it was easy, not because it was romantic, but because for the first time in a long while, my life felt honest. Years have passed since then. The cabin is ours now. My work looks different, slower, healthier. We still hike the same trails, still sit in silence when words aren't needed. Love didn't arrive like a storm. It arrived like the mountains themselves, steady, patient, and strong enough to last. And this time, I let myself stay.